pass up the chance to speak to a group that is really concerned about our country and the constitutional previews in which we live, and the fact that we are definitely a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. But our forefathers put this in place, but we today, in today's society, have forgotten about that. And, you know, as Phil mentioned, a little bit of background about me before I start is, you know, I'm a former state trooper. I spent 15 years in the state police, and it's true. I have a strong belief in God and my ability to go to Him when there's no other friend standing beside me out there on the side of the street corner. He's there beside me each and every day. And I have always fought for the protection of the rights, your constitutional rights as a police officer to live in a free society. And, you know, I think these are God-given rights. These are not man-given. These are God-given rights for you to live in freedom, not for a Congress or a Senate or a House of Delegates or anyone else to take them away, because that's what the framers of our Constitution truly believed in, and that's what we believe in. And I have a vested interest. I have two children. I have a 19-year-old son. I have a 9-year-old daughter. And I see what I came from. I'm 47 years old. And I see the freedoms that I have. And I want my children to have those freedoms. And I want them to have a better country when I leave them. That's why I've been so disturbed by what's going on in Washington, D.C. today with the corporate bailouts, with the universal health care, with the cap and trade. I think that just drives our children deeper and deeper in debt until they have no option other than to throw their hands up and say, you know, we're dictated now by the government as to how we live. And until we change that, and we're not far away, we've got to change it soon, or we're going to be in a lot of trouble. You know, I found it interesting when I went to your website and I saw Samuel Adams' quote here about no people will tamely surrender their liberties, nor can be easily subdued when knowledge is diffused and virtue is preserved. You know, how ironic that he could have seen into the future. I mean, you might as well say Samuel Adams was a prophet, because he's seen what was going to happen is, you know, people would take a lack of interest in government and lack of interest in their moral aspects and let anything go and not know what was going on. And then all of a sudden, you know, we're going to be subdued by these things if we don't act upon them as soon as we possibly can. You know, I've lived in Virginia all of my life, and Virginia is the mother of our Constitution, of our form of government. The form of government was birthed here, and I think it's important that Virginia take a lead in making sure that our government is sustained, and we go back to a government for the people and other people. Yeah, I had the opportunity this year to introduce legislation that affected the state police chaplains, and regardless of what anybody tells you, what the governor did and what the colonel of the state police did by dictating how a chaplain prays and who they pray to is a clear violation of that individual's First Amendment right.
That's right.
And I had legislation that would basically set out in the code that the superintendent would have the authority to establish a program, but he could not dictate how that individual prayed or counseled with other members of the department. And it passed the House overwhelmingly. Morgan Griffith was a big supporter of that and assisted me on that bill. And we got it through the House by about a 70-30 vote, and then it died by one vote in a Senate Courts Committee because they felt that it was the separation of church and state. that they were dealing with, because it was a state police agency and it was dealing with religion. They felt it was a separation of church and state issue. Here's the thing, gentlemen, that's not in our Constitution. And one of the things that I want to talk about is Article 1, 2, and 3 of our Constitution, and the legislative powers and the executive powers and the judicial powers. There's a reason there's a wall of separation between those three. And the reason is because legislatively we have the ability to make laws that we've got to live within. And the executive branch has the ability to enforce those laws. And I've served under both now. I've served under the executive branch as a state trooper. It was very important to me not to take away anyone's constitutional rights, because at the point that I was serving as a trooper under the executive branch, I had more power to take your constitutional rights away than I have as a legislator. I could arrest you and detain you and probably have done it with the utmost good intentions and still have violated your constitutional rights. And that was a very important thing to me and to most every police officer that I know. The chastisement of Obama to the police officer who was acting involved in what he thought was a breaking and entering, it is just beyond me. I mean, here is the chief executive officer of the executive branch chastising someone who he's put out there to protect the people of the United States. And that's just unheard of. There's a process that you go through, and that process was overlooked. Getting back to the fact about the chaplains, these guys, they put their lives on the line every day. They voluntarily do this. These 17 chaplains voluntarily did this of their time. They would counsel with troopers who had been through traumatic incidents. They were there at Virginia Tech. They counseled the families of the lost loved ones that were there. And for 30 years, that program had been in place, and not one complaint had ever been made. To this date, there's never been a complaint made. So they had done their job, and they've done it with the utmost respect of everyone's constitutional right. And let me tell you, they've counseled with Muslims, they've counseled with Buddhists, they've counseled with every known form of religion, and they never crossed that line. And so when it got to the Senate Courts Committee, they said, we're afraid that this would violate, the separation of church and state. We feel that the colonel has every authority to put this policy into place, and we are going to amend. Here we go, amendments. We're going to amend this language to fit the language of what the colonel's policy was. And what happened was, when they did that, I said, no, if you put this amendment on this bill, I, being the drafter, will kill the bill right here in committee. I will not let it go forward.